Hi everybody. So this week we are covering Learning Plan 4 in class, which is Enhancing Page Layout and Design. I just want to mention very quickly, in this specific learning plan, you have all the stuff that we're used to normally seeing, module information, the projects at the end of the module, and then the review project. You also see the final project information in this particular learning plan. So this is the last learning plan for the class. Here's the directions for the final project, and the files that you need for it are included in the files that you downloaded at the beginning of the class. I just wanted to mention quickly, I believe I mentioned this last week, but I of course can't remember, so I'm just going to say it again. The schedule. I realized last week as I was talking to my in-person class that this is messed up. So technically the date for this should be Wednesday, September 23rd. We covered Chapter 4 module. So I'm going to leave these dates the same. We covered the Chapter 4 module today in class. I'm going to leave these dates due as October 4th and October 7th, and then the final project is due the 12th. So what I wanted to let you guys know, those of you who are online, I know for some of you it's not even possible, but for those of you who it is possible and you're not doing well in this class, I would highly encourage you to come to class next Wednesday, the 30th, and Wednesday the 7th. I will not be lecturing in person. It is going to be work time. And that's for anything. I mean, if you have an assignment in Module 1 that you got a 0 on, and you want to go back and do that, then you come to class in the next couple weeks and you can get this stuff done and get this figured out. Word Level 1 is not a class anybody should not be passing. So I want to do whatever I can to help you be successful and complete this class successfully. I do know and understand that some of the confusion has come from the Cengage piece, and that's why I want to give you this time at the end of class to make up and do anything that you need to do to be successful. So next 2 weeks, Wednesday the 30th and Wednesday the 7th are work time in L139, and I'll put that in the announcement as well so everybody knows. Okay, so for this week we're again in Learning Plan 4, and Learning Plan 4 is Enhancing Page Layout and Design, basically creating a newsletter in this learning plan. So one thing I just want to start out with, again, is just reminding you that to get to the chapter for Module 4, you'd be opening up that first link in the learning plan. This takes you to Module 4 to get to all of the information that you need to get to for this module. And I just want to take you to the first page. So technically, again, it would make sense that you would work through this before you would begin on your homework. If you don't work through this, then that might be why you aren't getting the most points possible, or maybe aren't understanding everything. But we'll go through this just right now as I'm going through the chapter. And again, you would access the review problem at the very bottom here. And the review problem is an exact, almost replica of working through the chapter here, which is what I'm doing in this video. So I just wanted to click here first to give you a quick overview of what we're doing today. Oops, I don't really want to do that. Let me just, I want this to make it bigger, but my computer is not letting me for some reason. Okay, well, anyway, this is what we're going to be doing in class today, is creating this newsletter, this look. And you'll see that we have, some areas of our document that take up, go from the left margin to the right. And then some areas where we have kind of these sections of information. We have almost like the sidebar. And then we have 3 columns of information down here. And that's what we're working through in this chapter, using what are called section breaks to allow you to do what you're seeing in here. So to begin with, as always, we're going to open up the Word Level 1 folder and get into the Word 4 folder. Come on. Okay, there we go. So Word Level 1 folder, wherever you have yours stored, we're in Module 4, so we're going to the Word 4 folder, Module folder. We're opening up the 4-1 file. And we're going to save that once it comes open here. We'll go to File, Save As. And if you just want to take off that 1 at the end, and type in newsletter. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is go into multiple page view, which is in the view tab here. So you can kind of get a feel for, you can just think of what I just showed you and what this is supposed to look like in the end and what it looks like right now. So we're starting with all this information here. And again, this is going to be very similar to what you have to do in the review problem. You'll start with this basic information and you're going to turn it into that newsletter at the end. So to begin with, I'm just going to increase the size here. I'm going to click in front of happy birthday and I'm going to insert what's called a section break continuous. So last week we talked about section break next page. Insert a section break and start the new section on the next page. We're going to do, this time we're going to do insert a section break and start the new section on the same page. So what that allows us to do is it allows us to treat this part of our document different than this part of our document, or this part of our document different than this, depending on where we put our section breaks. So I'm going to turn on my paragraph markers here so you can see. And it's still difficult to see. It's hard to tell here, but there's a bunch of dots right here. And actually, if I just click quick and hit enter, you can see section break continuous. So it's weird how it kind of like hides these section breaks sometimes, and other times it doesn't. But the section break is there. So we inserted a section break there. We're also going to insert one here in front of classics in audio form. I'm going to go to the layout tab, breaks, insert section break continuous again here, and you can see it pops in right there. And then finally we're going to also put one here in front of Animal Farm, layout breaks continuous. So we have 3 section breaks, which are really creating 4 different sections of our document. So this is one section here, this is another section down in here, this is a section all by itself right here, this line, and then finally this last section here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change our margins. If I click up in this section here under Metropolitan Library System, I'm going to go to margins here. And they tell you in the chapter in the book to go down to custom margins and change the left and right margin to 0.75, but there's already a setting for that. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on this setting. And if you just watch here carefully, you'll see this will change as soon as I click on that. You can see it extended the shading out into the margin more because we just changed the margin just for this part up here to 0.75. Now I'm going to click down into this section, the second section, and I'm going to change the margins for this section. Notice I don't need to highlight anything because I already inserted the section break. So whatever I do is only going to do it for this section. So I can go to margins again. This time I do have to go to custom margins. And we're going to change this top margin to a 2-inch margin. Or I'm sorry, not the top. What am I doing? Left margin. Left margin to 2.5. So not only I got the number wrong, I got the wrong margin. Okay, so top, bottom, left, or bottom, right are all 1, and the left margin is 2.5. So now you can see that shifted over, again, just for this section, because we've inserted those section breaks. I'm going to go to this section, which is really just one line, this classics in audio form. Do the same thing we did here, extend that to be the left and right margins to 0.75, so it extends that shading. Now in this bottom section, there's nothing we're going to do with the margins. We just need to change the columns instead. And if I go to columns here, again, I made sure I was clicked in here first. Go to columns and choose 3. You can see that it changed just this section into columns, again, because we have that section break continuous. And the columns are not balanced right now, and we'll do that later. We'll get those balanced later on. So even though we made it 3 columns, we don't have enough text to keep it at 3 columns. So that's why it is showing what it is right now. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert, and for now I'm going to turn off these paragraph markers because they drive me crazy. I'm going to select all of this and we're going to put in a hanging indent. So if you remember, we could change the indents on the ruler, but because this is in columns, it can be a little confusing. So I'm just going to go to the paragraph group here and click on the dialog box launcher. And in this indentions spot here, I'm going to go to special and hanging. And we're, instead of doing a 1/2 inch, I'm going to do a 0.2 inch there, almost like a 1/4 inch. Click OK. And as you remember, the hanging indent is the last line is indented versus like what we typically see as the first line indented. So we're choosing the hanging indent there. Okay, the next thing the chapter is covering is showing you how you can insert symbols, special characters. So in this section here, we're going to put in a registered trademark symbol after listening to literature collection. So I'm going to click after the N before the period. I'm going to type in the open parenthesis R and close parenthesis. You can see I barely typed the close parenthesis, open parenthesis R, close parenthesis, and it made it into that registered trademark. If I zoom in here, you can probably see that a little bit better. So basically it's like a keyboard shortcut. It's actually an autocorrect feature, and I'll show you that by going to the File tab. And if you go down to Options and go to Proofing, Autocorrect Options, these are all the autocorrects that are automatically in there. And you can see the same thing works for copyright, for the TM trademark, all of these types of autocorrects that are already in here. When we do the colon and open parenthesis, it gives us the smiley face and so on. And you'll see this is where all the words pop in that we typically misspell. So one word I know that's in here is the, because I always spell the wrong. But notice you can always add your own. So let's say if you work for a company, well, let's say like LTC, we could type in LTC and we can tell it to replace it with Lakeshore Technical College. So instead of having to type out that full company name all the time, you could type in basically an acronym and go from there. Now the only obviously negative to that is if I really wanted to only type in LTC, it would autocorrect. But as we also know, we can always undo the autocorrect. So just give you an idea where those autocorrect features come up. The other thing I just wanted to show you is you can also get to that by going to the Insert tab and Symbol. And very popular symbols are always in this drop-down area. So here's the copyright, registered trademark, trademark, and so on. You can click on More Symbols and go to how many different symbols within here. You also have special characters here that you can bring in, so you can actually see a keyboard command for these as well. So lots of different options when it comes to inserting symbols. Okay, next. We're going to start working with objects here in Word. So we're going to scroll up to the top here, and I'm going to again kind of zoom out so we can see 2 pages. Ooh, maybe not that much. We're going to put in a text box over here on the left. So we're going to just kind of click anywhere right in this happy birthday area. And I'm going to go to the Insert tab and text box. I'm going to do like a pre-formatted text box. We're going to look for the Ion Sidebar 1. You can see it pops in here. It's going to shift everything over, but we're going to fix that in just a second. And so the first thing we're going to do is change the size of this box. So notice again, whenever we bring in something new, we get our contextual menu here. On the far right, we have the shape height is supposed to be 4.3. And the width, we're going to make 1.5. And then we're going to, I'm going to drag this text box down here so that it just kind of is just to the left of this group here and just right above, like almost try and get it flush with the it's time to celebrate. The one thing I should mention, when you do have a box like this selected, you can also use your arrow keys to move up and down and move it ever so slightly. That also can help you move it if you can't get it in exactly the right spot. Okay, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to change the text wrapping feature. So right here we have text wrapping you can also get to it up here on your ribbon. Either one will work. In this case, we're going to choose in front of text. You don't really see a lot change there, which is fine. And then we also want to make sure that fixed position on page is selected. And again, I feel like I need to move this up just a tad. There we go. Okay. I'm going to zoom again so I can see what I'm doing here. In the sidebar title, we're going to click in there and we're going to type in new operating hours. Click in the bottom section here and delete that. And then we're going to insert some text here. So one way we can insert text is we can go to the Insert tab and go to Object and choose Text from File. And this is remembering where I was before, which is always nice. If this does not come up, you're going to have to navigate to your Word 4 module folder. But we're looking for the, what are we looking for? The hours file. So the support hours file, click Insert. It's going to take the text from that file and insert it into this text box. So now we could have opened that file and we could have copied and pasted the text in here as well. But that's a nice feature to know, something that you can change if you want to. Then we're going to change the size of this text here to be 11 point. Okay. We're going to insert another text box down towards the bottom of this page. So another way we can insert a text box is just to draw it ourselves. So I can click on the Insert tab and go to Shapes, under Basic Shapes, and choose Text Box. And then I can come in here and draw it myself. And I think they told you to try to make it a specific size as you're working through it, but I don't usually try to do that. I just make it the size I want. In this particular case, they do want it to be a specific size. So I can come over here and I can adjust this to the size I want it to be. And that's supposed to be at 1.5. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to put in some text. I'm just going to drag this down a little bit to get the bottom border to be at the bottom of our text here at the bottom of the page. Okay, in this Getting Around Town paragraph, we want to select the sentence that says the complete schedule. Select that whole sentence, including the period. Copy and paste it into our text box here. And we're going to put some quotes around it. So at the front of it, go ahead and put in a open quote, and at the bottom, put in a close quote. And then, again, with this still selected on your Format tab, we're going to go to this Align Text button and choose Middle. And you can see that it's just vertically centering that in the text box. And then we're also going to give it some color. So in the Shape Style menu, we're going to choose this very first one here. And that again is under Shape Style, not text information here. Make sure you're always differentiating between what are they wanting me to look at here. These are the kind of things that you could get wrong in Cengage, even though you feel like you did it with the right thing. Make sure you're always clicking on the right area to get those, because you see a lot of the same stuff here. Shape fill, text fill, outline, outline, and so on. Okay. We're also going to change this wrap text, or wrap text button is already set to the in front of text. We want to make sure it is fixed position on the page is checked there. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. Put another text box down here. We're going to do the same thing that we did before, in that we're going to insert a text box. And we're going to do that same style as we did before, so the Ion sidebar 1. And again, we want the layout option to be, and for whatever reason that layout button is not popping up. There we go. In front of text. Fixed position on page. And we're going to change the height to be 3.5 and the width to be 1.5. And then we can grab this and move this over here. Once again, we're going to type in our title at the top, Book Festival Reminder, and then we're going to insert some text. So we're going to delete what's in there, go to the Insert tab, Object, From File, and this time we're going to open up the Festival file. And again, we just want to make sure that that text should be at 11 point, and that kind of fills our text box for us there. Okay, the last thing we're going to do in this section is add a dropped cap. And if you've used drop caps before, I know you've seen them before, you might not have used them, but oftentimes in books or in newsletters, magazines, you see what's called a drop cap, where it takes the first letter of the beginning of a paragraph and makes it bigger. So to do that, you just have to be clicked anywhere in the paragraph. So underneath happy birthday, drop cap, and we're going to choose dropped. And you can see how it does. I could also click on drop cap, and you can see if I would choose in margin how that would look. We want to choose dropped and go right back to that same menu in the drop cap options. We're going to tell it we only want it to drop it to 2 lines, not 3. So you can see 3 lines, 1, 2, 3. When I click OK here, it'll only be 2 lines, so it's not quite as big. We're going to skip getting around town because we don't want it on there, because we're going to be putting in a clip art there in a little bit, or picture I should say. So we're going to do it to fond farewell as well. And drop cap, dropped. One thing I wish it would remember is my last setting, but it doesn't, so I have to go back to drop cap options again and click on lines to drop as 2. And then finally we'll do it to this last paragraph. Heard any good books lately? We clicked in that paragraph, dropped, drop cap options. And I should also mention this distance from text. You know, that's a setting that you can always adjust. We're not adjusting it, we don't feel the need to, but you can always change that. You can futz with that if you feel like your letter is too close to your drop cap is too close to your text. You can move that around to change that. Okay, so this completes session 4-1, and I'll end this video and start up with session 4-2 or 4.2.